Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Chasing Psychological Safety, where we talk to you about all matters about humans, in particular this topic of ours that we return to over and over again, which is essentially the human debt. To give you the definition really quickly again, it's essentially the collection of times when we haven't done right by the humans in our organization. All those corners we've cut, all those big topics we have started on and dropped, all of those things that we know would have made a better life for our employees, and yet we've kind of put them on the back burner and hope that they will resolve themselves. Topics that have to do with engagement, happiness, respect, motivation, performance, you name it, they're all in this big bucket of human debt. One of the big things that has happened, at least to us and to me in this particular journey of ours of trying to understand how to make change move as fast as possible, has been that we have evolved our thinking in terms of what does and doesn't work, just because we have seen hundreds, if not thousands of people and hundreds of teams, and the way that they interact has taught us a lot over the last few years. We have ourselves started from a place where we were in the space in which we were speaking about the organization and the way that we should be creating organizations on paper, what is an intentional way of designing the perfect organization, how we should eliminate all the bad things, all the ailments of the organizations today that you see around you, or the politics, or the bullying, or the lack of diversity. It should just be eliminated and then life would be better. Of course, that's still the truth, except that magic one doesn't exist, and the organization as a magical entity that could change things for people doesn't exist either. So we have had to take a step back and be honest about the importance of doing organizational design intentionally. The second thing we've done that was the wrong move, if you wish, was focus intently on how we form teams, what kind of people we put in the teams, kind of the same way that recruitment is thinking of finding the right personalities and putting them together so that the teams are most successful. And we realized by looking at the studies and having to acknowledge that Google's Project Aristotle is spot on, that that's an important factor, but nowhere near as important as having psychological safety and as having structure and clarity and impact and all those other good things, but first and foremost, psychological safety. So in our journey, we have started from organizational design. We came down finally to the team level and believe that teams can be organized on purpose by finding the right chemistry between humans, walked away from that and realized that the one lever of change is psychological safety. And what we're saying is, not necessarily that these topics don't matter. We're saying that if you must look at something, and if you're going to be willing to make serious change, and this is a time when we should be honest about what that change means. It's the time to be honest about that change, because we've seen so many shifts around us that we can either embrace, run with, and make a better world out of, or we can forget they ever happened and kind of make a loss out of this entire year. And this entire tragedy that we've had to go through. So essentially, if we want better outcomes, we strongly believe that it's at the team level. It's not at this mythical organizational level. We've said this multiple times, and it's maybe not even necessarily at individual level, although there are many things that can be done at individual levels, but it is at the bubble level.
Absolutely. I think one of the really interesting things about the organizational debate versus the team debate is what we've seen over the years. I've been in many team development sessions, team coaching sessions, and the number of times that we observe and we listen to groups of leaders saying, I can't do X or Y because the organization has placed these barriers. The board has not created a strategy that suits the kind of team, the business that I work in, or the systems haven't been put in place to enable us to do our work. I think what's really important about work on culture and work with teams is that it works best when it's done at the team level. And that's the beauty of psychological safety as well. There can be organizations that will want to create an organizational culture of psychological safety, but that culture will need to begin at the level of every team in that organization. So when you're looking at organizational versus team, to a great extent, it's about taking responsibility. So if you're looking at the organization as a leader and you're thinking, there's something happening at a much higher level than me, I've heard the phrase beyond my pay grade before, decisions are being made that, are stopping me from changing the culture of my team or moving my team's success forward or working with them to move the team forward. That is, how do I phrase this? That is something that you can move away from simply by saying, what is within my sphere of control? What are the things that I can take responsibility for? There are things outside of my control that I can do nothing about, but in front of me is a set of, say, 7, 8, 10 people that we can do something together to make a seismic shift in the way that we work and the kind of success that we achieve, and particularly in terms of building psychological safety. You're not going to change the whole organization. That is beyond your control potentially, but you do absolutely have the control and the influence and the opportunity to work with the people within your team to start creating a cultural shift, which will result, as particularly if you work on psychological safety, in a productivity and success shift and a greater level of well-being for your team. So when you're looking at the organizational side of things, remember that that is not something you have control over. What you have control over is you and the people around you. And it's about influencing those people, working with those people to effect the change locally. And then once you've effected the change locally, you can start to build that outwards. It will naturally work its way outwards, because once you start working together as a team and building that psychological safety, some of what will fall out will be about the relationships you've got within that wider system and network in the organization. So the good will spread. So that's the positive message about organizational versus team from me today, and something we've absolutely seen and worked on with teams and makes a huge difference.
Right. So what we're saying is, I hope is what we're both saying, is that a healthy organization is a collection of healthy teams that have strong psychological safety. That is your fastest way to a good organization, and not going the other way, having a blank sheet of paper and attempting to create culture. And we're also saying, and this sounds theoretical and it isn't, we're also saying there are very clear things you can do, and you can do them tomorrow. That all the things that we keep on and on about, your team relaunches, your hackathons, your moments of closeness, all of the bits and pieces that you can affect. As soon as you understand that the people work is valuable, is doable, and is mandatory, that's when you're going to be on your way to affecting change and then implicitly changing organizations. So yeah, thank you for listening to us this week. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you. Bye.